Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night of SDGC Super Deluxe Games Cast. Yes, tall vampire lady up in the corner of the screen was on purpose. I don't ever want anybody to forget that she exists. I feel like her presence is looming over us all constantly, and that brings me comfort. So yeah, tall vampire lady. Yeah, Jeff is
just checking. I'm just checking.
You never know where she's going to pop up next. I don't know why my camera is so goddamn blurry tonight. I have no idea. I spent all this money on this expensive ass new camera.
It's the pink lights.
Do I need to turn the pink lights on? Is that going to fix this?
That's not gonna. No.
Well, at any rate,
there's no saving it.
I know. God, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Which is a shame because I'm incredibly good looking, and I was hoping everybody could see me in crisp 1080p, but I guess it just wasn't in the cards. So at any rate, hope everybody is having as good of a week as you possibly can in these very trying times. A lot of crappy shit going on right now. So all we want is for you to sit down with us for an hour and a half and forget about all that and talk about video games. And tonight we have as part of the panel, Justin is here. Hello, sir.
Hello. How's it going, John?
I'm going to talk about how it's going here in just a second. Is everything going okay with you?
Okay, I guess.
Is everything going okay with you?
Oh yeah.
Just
I didn't get snowed into my job again last night, so I'm doing okay.
Well, I just want to say, Justin, that what you said on Twitter today was very brave and powerful, and I am extremely proud of you. And being honest with yourself about yourself, and doing it publicly is incredibly courageous. And I wish I had an iota of the moral courage that I think you have. So I appreciate. Just want to let you know I appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that on the show tonight. If people are curious, they can look on Twitter, and if they want to ask me questions, they can ask me about it. So.
And Jeff. Justin, did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, sorry, I'm done. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Justin, you are done. Jeff, hello. Hi.
Yeah, hi. I have nothing useful to say. I don't know why I'm on this show.
Brittany, do you have anything useful to say? Anything to add?
I'm here.
Anything? Are you here? Are you really here?
Enough. Yes, that's enough. My presence is here.
Excellent.
I can tell we're all
with me.
We're all just firing on all cylinders tonight, aren't we?
I am.
We're all like half asleep, like half paying attention.
I am in rough.
I was in the middle of tweeting my tweet. And I was like, oh, it's my turn.
That is what Brittany just said is probably the most online shit I've ever heard in my life. I was right in the middle of tweeting my tweet. Like that is.
You gotta tweet your tweet.
You gotta shoot your shot. You gotta tweet your tweet.
My shot.
You gotta tweet your tweet. So yeah, it's been kind of a busy week in games. There's a lot to talk about, but I want to start off real quick by reminding everyone that we are part of the extended ButWhyTho family, and I want to talk to you real quick about a show they're doing, a podcast, which is part of the ButWhyTho podcast network called Pixel Therapy. And Pixel Therapy brings listeners diverse perspectives on video games, culture, and current events, as well as therapeutic conversations about the emotional impact of games with folks in and outside of the industry. New episodes are every other Tuesday. Pixel Therapy is part of the ButWhyTho podcast network, and you can find them at Pixel Therapy Pod on Twitter and at pixeltherapypod.com. So please go check those incredibly kind people out. As far as everything else goes, we're going to run today's show, our Derek-less show, our producer-less show, much as we do every other podcast. We're going to talk about what we've been playing, and then we're going to launch into what has happened in the world of gaming over the past several days. And if you guys don't mind, I would like to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
If that's okay with you.
Please.
Okay. All right. So
I'm listening very carefully to what it is.
You should. You should. So I was really. God, my fucking camera is pissing me off. I just like it's like a splinter in the back of my mind now.
I can't even notice it.
It's so.
And if it makes you feel better, Twitch will absolutely destroy all the video quality anyway.
That's fine. So a few days ago, I streamed a game called Sweet Home. Now, Sweet Home, for anybody who doesn't know, was published or was developed and published for the NES by Capcom in 1989. It's considered to be one of the first survival horror games, and this is the game that actually directly led to Resident Evil. Essentially, it's a survival horror JRPG, turn-based, all that good stuff. It was never localized in the United States, and I got my hands on an English translation, and I was really excited to stream this because I'd heard nothing but glowing things about it. And the first, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes were extremely positive. Like, visually, it's one of the best looking NES games I have ever played. To the point where some of the monster animations and monster pixels, for the creatures that you fight, looked like they would have been fine in a Super Nintendo game. Like, that's how good parts of the game looked. But it ended up being one of the most obtuse experiences I have ever had in a game. So much so that I stopped the stream early because I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like, and it really, really gave me a new appreciation for just how far this medium has come. And essentially, it's as you're walking around, it's top down, and you have 5 characters that you can split up into 2 teams, right? And every character has a special item that you can use in certain situations. Like, one character has a lighter. One character has something called remedy, because I guess he's a doctor. One character has, a key that can open various doors. Now, you have to split your characters up into 2 teams. You got a 3-person team and a 2-person team. The problem, and it's cool in the sense that you can move those teams around and get different things accomplished, and what things will play in tandem with each other. Like, for example, you use the team, if the guy with the lighter is on one team, use it to burn through a big rope that's blocking your way, and then you bring the other guy in, and he's got the key, and he can unlock the door behind it, right? Here's the problem, is that every time you need to use an item, you have to go into the menu, you have to select that character, then you have to put that character at the front of the party, and then you have to exit that menu, and then move that character back or up to whatever you want him to do, go back into the menu, use the item, and then exit. And if there's something that requires a different item right after that, you have to go back into the menu, select that different character, put him as the lead individual in the party, exit the menu, and then use the item. And I was like, fucking wow, like, holy shit. And this game has a difficulty spike that it's the kind of difficulty spike that, so I'm wandering around the house and I'm fighting zombies and shit, and it's super easy, right? It's super fucking easy. I'm fighting ghosts, and then maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes into the game, after I'm just rolling over fucking ghosts and like creepy dolls that are walking around, I run into this half-eaten torso on the ground, and it proceeds to wipe my entire party out of fucking nowhere in the same, and it takes you all the way back to the beginning of the game. And
did it even have arms?
No, it had arms.
What did it do to you?
So it would grab me and then swipe and then poison me, and all my characters were doing 1 hit point worth of damage. And like it is obtuse for Nintendo games. Like, it's obtuse for early NES games. Like, you can pick up weapons and equip them, but the game doesn't tell you how. So I'm like fiddle farting around for 10 minutes, looking like a fucking idiot, trying to equip this knife. It's called a fruit knife that I found on the ground. I'm just walking around it, like slapping the controller on my desk. Like, what the fuck is going on? How do I equip this shit? And then I realize,
this is just extra funny because I can actually picture you just playing this.
Oh, dude,
trying to figure out how to use your fruit knife. Fucking fruit knife.
Dude, this is how you pick up items. This is how you pick up items. You go into the menu, you select a blank spot in somebody's inventory, you hit the A button, and then you pick up the weapon, and then you pick up the item, right? Like, you can't just pick up it. Like, that would make it too fucking easy to just hit a button and pick up the item, right? And I can definitely see where this game had some great fucking ideas. I don't understand all the universal praise for it, because the very thought of playing that shit again, it makes me want to fucking it makes me want to close my head in a car door over and over and over.
So when's the next stream?
Next week, next Friday, probably at around 9 p.m.
Okay.
Brittany is putting trash in the chat.
I don't know what
And
I don't know what
I
you're
was
talking
I,
about.
I had that typed out like 2 minutes ago and I deleted it. I was like, I'm gonna leave this alone.
Jeff is a smart man. But other than that, I've just been playing the new Final Fantasy 14 content. And it's great. I'm
Zeke.
working on my new resistance weapons. The chat's already picking up on the Final Fantasy 6 slander.
Announcement event very soon.
Tomorrow, actually.
Is that tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
I thought it was the 13th.
No, tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I can't fucking wait.
Wait, what is it?
Are you for real?
Revealing the next Final Fantasy 14 expansion tomorrow.
Are they?
Yes.
Oh, fuck, it is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's
I
tomorrow.
didn't fucking know that. What?
Yeah. I thought it was next week.
Brittany, how
Holy shit.
do you not know that?
I don't know. I haven't really been around lately, so I have no fucking idea.
That surprises me that you don't know that. That surprises me. You are not a true Final Fantasy fan.
Wow.
I think we can.
First off, I don't have the mindset to deal with this shit right now.
Brittany, that's
Like,
just
here's
the
the
right
reason
answer.
why
I don't
That
have the
is-
mindset to
One of the
deal with
greatest
this
Final
shit.
Fantasies.
that is the proper answer.
Brittany's like, I've had a rough week. And John's like, I'm surprised how stupid you are.
Brittany, explain this shit to me. Speaking of Brittany, what have you been playing recently?
Ugh, don't ask me that. All I've been playing is fucking World of Warcraft. That's it. Next, move on.
What?
What have you been playing, Justin?
Brittany is not fucking around tonight.
So I've been kind of playing a bunch of stuff lately. I finished 13 Sentinels, which I adored. I won't go into too much detail about that. Derek and I are going to be recording some stuff, going real in depth about that game. I loved it. So wait, watch out for that when we get that up. I also started Bug Snacks, which I played a couple hours of it, and I enjoyed it so far. It's really nice. I like doing favors for all the little grumpuses and getting to know them and stuff.
I'm sorry, what are they called? Grumpuses?
Grumpuses.
Yeah, the grumpuses.
Who's your favorite bug snack? Is that what? I don't know.
So I mean, I haven't seen too many yet. I really do like Bunger. Bunger, is that the burger that like?
I swear to
like-
God,
Bungers.
I thought you were gonna say bunghole.
No, that wasn't what I was gonna say.
I legit thought that's what was coming out of your mouth.
I'm talking about a creature that has a bun. So I've enjoyed the little bit I've played of that. I also there were PS5 updates for God of War and Control.
Right, yeah, I got that 4K
4K
60 frames update.
So
right?
I booted up God of War planned to just play a little bit last night, and I played a couple hours, and I went back to it today. That update looked really good, and that game's just really good.
Everybody's screenshots have just been like so beautiful. Loving it.
And then I'm also excited to like those God of War and Control are my consecutive game of the years for me. So I'm probably going to end up replaying them both. The updates they did are really great, and I'm very happy. If you remember, I was very upset at the complete lack of an upgrade path for people that bought Control and
I do
the
remember
season
that.
pass.
I do remember that.
But it's free on PlayStation Plus this month with the PS5 update. So I got my update without having to pay $505 money. So that's fun. I planned on checking it out by now, but I haven't checked it out. But I've heard very good things from people, so I'm looking forward to jumping back into that. So I'm just gonna probably hop between Control, God of War, and Bug Snacks for the time being.
I just need to drag 505 for that. Like they put the game on sale like 2 weeks ago, and we're like, hey, this is be like great chance to grab it just in time for the PS5 update. And then right after the sale ended, then they're like, oh, it'll be free.
Oh yeah, I also tried out Destruction All Stars. I'm not sure how to play that game. So I don't have very many.
I don't even really know what the hell
on
that
it.
is.
I grouped up with a couple people.
Justin, that was the cutest fucking review of a game I've ever heard.
Yeah, it doesn't explain too much, and it's kind of hard to figure out in the middle of a match. So like you can be on foot or mostly in cars, and you ram other cars and wreck other cars to get points, but like the more straightforward game modes, you can only like solo queue. You can't queue with a person with a party. So me and I was playing with Samuel Tolbert from Windows Central and Zach, former SDGC member, and we tried a few games, but we were having connection issues and we're kind of confused about how to play. So it didn't go great. Like, I don't think the game's bad by any means. I just think it doesn't communicate stuff all that well. It definitely needs some work, but I hope they take some of the feedback, because I could see it being a fun game to jump into from time to time. It's just right now it's just hard to figure out how to actually play it.
And I know very little about this game. Honestly, that's fine with me. It, like, from what I do know about it, this doesn't seem like it would be anywhere near up my alley. I have noticed that it's been I won't say like mediocre reviews, but it's been like, people like, general consensus seems to be it's fine. Is it something
that's kind of the thing that like I've heard from people I've talked to is like, I haven't heard anybody really say that it's bad, but everybody's just like, it's fine, or it might not be my thing, but I haven't seen too many people too into it. So we'll see where it goes in the next couple months. It's free this month and next month on PS5 if you have PlayStation Plus. So I'm hoping I want to actually learn it a little bit better so I can give it a proper chance, because right now I can't really weigh in too in depth on it.
And Jeff, did you have anything else that you wanted to mention?
Regarding like what I've been playing?
Yes.
We are all here tonight.
It's been a week, guys.
It sounded like the implication was that I already talked, and do I have anything further to add?
So I worded that weird. I'm sorry. Look, I'm tired
my
too. Okay,
it's not working. I don't know. I mentioned it last time. I try not to bring extra Final Fantasy content to this podcast.
No, by all means, Jeff, please.
Covered.
Tonight is the night.
And I talked a lot about 15 last week because I've been playing that again. And yeah, I do quite enjoy the open world part of that. Up till chapter 9, despite its problems and despite Cindy. And then I got to Altissia, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember what's coming now. So I just kind of, I beat it before. I'm like, yeah, I might come back and finish it up. Because I do want to do some more post-game stuff that I didn't do last time, playing New Game Plus.
I like this stuff after chapter 9.
I didn't hate it. Like, I enjoyed it and finished it last time, but I did think it was kind of a mess. And that's why I was playing it again. I was, I wanted to give it a second chance and see if it kind of hit any better for me this time. But yeah, I just fired it up yesterday and I was like, I don't feel like doing this. So I'm playing Final Fantasy X again now.
Well, that's a shame.
Literally the only games I have installed on my PS5 right now are Final Fantasy X, 15, Final Fantasy 7, and Final Fantasy 14. So
that's a lot of Final Fantasy, Jeff. That's a lot.
That's a lot of good ass content.
That's some good shit right there.
Minus 15. That's a lot of good ass content.
Look, which is weird that you would say that, Brittany, because Final Fantasy 15 is actually one of the best games in the franchise. Very strange that you would say that.
It is not strange that you are saying that and you are a man, but I'm gonna let it pass. Go ahead.
Okay. Ooh. And all I'm saying is that while I will fully admit that game does not handle certain female characters well, Lunafreya, Cindy, and I will say that Aranea absolutely should have been a party member, like
Aranea, yep,
no doubt about it.
Arabea.
No, Arabea. No, and she was the best thing about Prompto's DLC. The best thing. Like
See, that's the thing about 15 is I platinumed it, I 100%ed it, I did everything in that game, and then after I beat it, I had no desire to go back and play the DLC. I started Gladios, and then I was like, you know what?
Gladios is the worst one.
And it was not good, and I'm like, I'm not playing anymore.
Gladios was the worst. Ignis is really good.
He was my favorite character, so I think that's why I just kind of like,
you really should go back and play Prompto and Ignis. Ignis's DLC is awesome.
Ooh, I heard Ignis's is really good.
It is really, it's one of the best portions of the game, to be honest with you. And you actually get some story, like a lot of Prompto's story background in his DLC. Which is like, as much as I love the game, I'm like, why wasn't this stuff in the game? Like why wasn't it there?
I mean, there's a lot of things you can ask that about Final
That's
Fantasy
true.
15 for.
That's true.
Yeah, 15's a weird one for me because I really like. It's one of those games that I really, really like in the moment of playing it.
Yeah,
I also agree, and like I really enjoyed it all the way up into the end while I was playing it. But like I also kind of agree with almost every complaint about the game.
Yeah,
but like I know they've patched a lot of stuff. I didn't play any of the DLC. I played this all right at launch, so I do have it downloaded on my PS5 to give another go because I've heard, the patches and the DLC and stuff like that really did make a difference. So I kind of want to give it another shot.
Well, as far as topics go, Jeff, what's that?
No, I was just gonna add to that. Like, at least from what I played, the DLC doesn't really fix like the patches. The stuff they add is kind of superficial. Like the main problem with the game is like the narrative, the storytelling. Like it's funny. I did a couple of the they have like in-game events from other games, like cross promotions. So they had one from Terra Wars, and then they had a Final Fantasy 14 quest, which is actually fucking awesome.
I saw your little clip of that.
That quest was hilarious. But the funny thing is, the storytelling in these random cross promotion quests is better than the main game. Like the cutscenes actually flow, the dialogue, they're better written. It's super weird. Like the game's biggest problem is like it feels like half the game is missing, probably because it is. Like you guys are talking about Aranea or however you pronounce her name. She's just like, again, maybe if I play a little bit further, she's just such a weird character. She shows up for like 2 seconds and you fight her, and then all of a sudden she's helping you, and the game just like doesn't ever really explain anything. Like things.
I would fundamentally disagree with that, but if we start going down this rabbit hole, we're going to be talking about this all night long.
Anyways, I wanted to actually talk about Final Fantasy X because I was just saying I ditched it.
No, please, no. I do now. Yes, Jeff, I do want you to talk about that.
It's so I have a bad fucking history with Final Fantasy games. I did eventually finish 7, but I always bought the cheap ass memory cards for the PS1, the knockoff, like the Mad Cats or whatever. And I got to disc 3 on FF7 twice, and both times my save got corrupted.
Ooh.
So it actually took me like 3 or 4 times playing that game to finish it. And the same shit happened to me with Final Fantasy X on PS2. So I've never actually beaten it, but I think I've like kind of had it spoiled for me. I don't want to say it on here, but I kind of like heard some things because it's been
about 10.
About 10, yeah. Like I heard something about just kind of like the nature of the circumstance. I don't know. Anyway, so I think it might have been spoiled for me, but my memory on it's pretty hazy. So I'm hoping to at least make it through this time and kind of see it to the ending. But no, I'm playing it on my PS5, which I guess is the PS4 version. But I'm shocked at how good it looks still.
No, that game cleans up really well. That game cleans up really well.
The textures, like, I mean, obviously it's dated. The NPC models look like you'd expect from a first attempt at a PS2 Final Fantasy, but the textures, the art design, the environments, the soundtrack is still really, really good. They've got the new arranged soundtrack on there, and the battle system's really fun. I think I think I'm better at games now than I was before then. Like I tend to just mash and like power my way through these kind of games. I'm not good at strategy and like matching up the different types of status ailments and things like that. My brain just isn't smart enough for that. But I find this time around swapping characters in and out of battle like continuously, depending on the different enemies, is like actually really fun. And I kind of forgot about that part of it.
Well, plus Final Fantasy X has such a unique setting, right? Like it really leans into that Asian Pacific theme. And it's not something excuse me, it's not something that you find in many Final Fantasy games. Like every Final Fantasy game takes thematic elements from a different culture, but those elements are usually subtle and underplayed a bit, and they really leaned into the Pacific Asian vibe in Final Fantasy X, and it's one of my favorite things about the game because you don't see a setting like that in many JRPGs, and it's so refreshing to see a game take something like that and apply it to the entire game. That's something I definitely appreciated about 10.
My favorite thing about 10 was it dealt with religion and racism
yeah.
in a very good way, because you have these characters that are grow up. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but basically the religion that you're following isn't great, and it's interesting to see these characters who are on your team go through the loss of their faith and coming to terms with what things really are, and then coming to terms with the racism and just being a piece of shit. So I think when people disregard 10 because of Titus or Titus or whatever, I think they're missing the bigger picture of the game, and that is the message of 10 is so much more important, I think, than any Final Fantasy out there.
Can we never say Titus again on this?
No, that's
on
his
this?
name.
It's Titus. It's Titus.
It's Titus.
No, technically, so Jeff, Square insists that it's Titus, but it's Titus.
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry.
They insist that it's Aerith, and I'm still calling her Eris, so I don't give a fuck.
I do too. But I like that out of that whole spiel that I did, that's what you fucking chose to talk about.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm gonna be.
No, I really appreciate it, Britt. I'm gonna try to like just be. I tend to miss a lot of some of the more subtle stuff like that, and just focus on like the oh, bad guy, good guy, and things. So I'm definitely gonna pay attention to some of that subtext.
Well, 10 like is that. Just a very colorful game all around, but the story is so fucking depressing. It has one of the most depressing stories I think in any video game.
Well,
yeah, it's pretty. This game.
And, I mean, that's not a spoiler. At the beginning of the game, you fucking dance for a funeral because a town gets destroyed. Like,
yeah.
So what I will say is that we can all agree, right, that Lulu's design was Nomura at his absolute peak. Like,
I love Lulu, man.
Like, she has a dress literally made out of belts.
She really does.
She really and
okay, one of my friends actually made a belt dress.
A belt dress
because of Lulu.
That's awesome.
Wow. Do you have a picture of it? I'd like to see that.
No, it was back in high school, but yeah, she actually made the belt dress. It was really cool, actually.
That's wild. All right. Okay, so we do have topics, although I love spending 30 minutes talking about Final Fantasy on this podcast, believe me. We do have some topics that we wanted to talk about tonight, and we're going to lead off, I think, with Google Stadia. Yeah, this is
Messia, right? Am I right?
This is definitely a topic. So Stadia launched in late 2019 as a streaming platform, right? We all know that. I mean, everybody just naturally assumed that this was going to have a long and fruitful life because we know that Google spends a lot of time and effort into supporting their peripherals and their platforms. We all know how much long-term support Google Glass got. I have three pair. I have my Google glasses right over here, and they're still supported to this day. I love them. I use them all the time because Google supports them. And so in a stunning turn of events, I'm shocked that we learned this week that Stadia is shutting down their internal studios. It's so unlike Google to just abandon a product, to abandon a platform. I personally am stunned by this. And they're completely changing their business focus for Stadia. And there's been a lot of joking about, oh, I told you so, yeah. And like, all joking aside, we all kind of saw this coming, right? But I feel like what people were not talking about was the fact that 150 developers are now out of a job after a little over a year. And it feels like Google used them to start a platform that they knew they were going to pivot on at some point, and just kind of tossed them when they were done. And there's a lot to unpack about the Stadia stuff. Who wants to kick it off? Who wants to open this can of worms?
I think the shittiest thing. Sorry, my ring light is dying. I think the shittiest thing is that I don't really feel like they gave it too much of a chance, like especially during 2020. Like that was kind of a weird year for gaming in general, right? And to just the year after that just to be like, no, this isn't working, we're done. Like it's weird to see them not put effort into such a lucrative industry. Like they could definitely do it if they want their fucking Google, but the fact that they just gave up is wild to me, and put people out of a job during a pandemic is wild to me. Like
the frustrating thing to me is, I mean, games are hard to make, and sometimes things just don't work out. And you especially when you put new studios together, you can take a bunch of talent, but it's not always going to come together well, and it's not always going to result in a good product. But the frustrating thing about this is, as far as I'm aware, they didn't even get to announce a game. They didn't even get to show a game. And
Yeah.
it seems like it was just the mismanagement of the product itself. From the half-assed launch, the product is basically still in beta. It still doesn't have half the features or support that they promised.
Right.
And it seems like that, so as a result of that, people didn't buy in. It's kind of just been a joke to most of the online community.
Well,
like nobody's really taken Stadia seriously. So now they have to pull the plug. But it just sucks that the developers working really hard to make some awesome games are the ones that are paying the price for Google basically just farting this thing out 2 years too early and not really supporting it.
Well, and here's the crazy thing about all this, right? Is that I'm not sure if you guys were aware of this, but apparently Stadia is the platform that ran Cyberpunk the best. Like apparently Cyberpunk ran almost flawlessly on Stadia. And yeah, somebody in chat literally just said the same thing. Like this was the one platform that could actually run Cyberpunk in a mostly playable state. We also know that Google is going to close its 2 game studios located in Montreal and Los Angeles. Neither one had released any games yet, as Jeff had alluded to. The company did say that they were going to try to find the developers other roles at Google. I would not bet on that actually happening.
Honestly, those developers, the thing, sorry for jumping in, but I just, while I'm just on that note, Montreal and LA right now are hiring, a lot of studios are hiring a lot of people. Google, the thing that's also wild is that Google hired a lot of really experienced, high talent people for these studios. I do not expect them to stay at Google, but I do think there are a lot of studios that are going to swoop in and grab these people. I do not think they're going to be out of a job for a long time. I think that's the one optimistic thing about this, and I think they'll probably end up somewhere that'll actually let them release a game.
Well, and it's like, I want to just like grab them by their lapels and scream, "Hey Google, you need to fucking, like if you want a successful platform, you need first party game." Oh, Jesus Christ. Did you guys hear that?
No.
My Google Home started talking to me.
Oh, because you said Google so many times?
Yeah. It said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand." Like, fuck you, Google. Like,
well, I mean, it's on point.
Yeah.
Somebody was coming with a knife, like, just...
fucking Google scared the shit. At first, I thought it was Justin coming out of, like, because Google Home and Justin sound very similar. I've just now learned, and so I thought it was Justin.
Do they?
They do.
The words Google Home and Justin.
No. Your
sound
voice.
Very similar.
Your voice sounds very similar to the voice that comes out of Google Home. And I thought it was you for a minute saying, "I don't understand." I'm like, Justin, how are you talking to me with 2 different voices? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like I was very confused for a second. But I completely lost my train of thought now. But
okay, so
please somebody pick it up. I'm all fucked up because of Google Home now.
So the other thing that kind of baffles me about this is that they're closing these studios not just before they announce or release a game, but before they even have kind of pivoted their business model. Because one of the things that people have criticized Stadia for the most is the business model of it being, if you want the 4K stream, you have to pay a subscription fee, but then you're still buying individual games at full price that are only playable on Stadia as a platform. And I thought for sure before, we saw this step, they would, pivot to a subscription service. or something like that, or maybe find a way so that, you know, stuff running off of Stadia doesn't need to be like a native Stadia port. Maybe it could run, you know, more standard PC ports or something. Like there's other hurdles that people have criticized with Stadia that I think if Google could have gotten past, you know, maybe they could have found, you know, some market for this. And then they just jumped all the way to we're dropping first party studio.
Well,
Yeah,
And I think that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Jeff, go ahead, bud.
No, I was gonna say Justin said exactly what I was gonna say and have been saying. Like, people, you know, some people in chat, other people pointed out, you know, Stadia has a lot of problems. There was the weird controller stuff at launch. The fact that it's essentially its own platform. It's not really running the same version of games as other ones. They have to be basically get a port to the Stadia platform. Some of the tech issues and stuff like that. But although I do think the tech behind it is really promising if they had actually stuck with it and kept working on it, because the idea of playing 4K games at 60 FPS on just like your Chromecast TV or in a Chrome browser is very, very cool. But none of that stuff matters whether it's good or bad, because like Justin said, like there's no audience for this, right? Like nobody wants to pay. I'm in Canada, so nobody wants to pay $90 for a copy of a game they can only play on Stadia, especially if they already own it on other platforms. Like who? And then the people that don't own consoles aren't going to want to do that. The people that do own consoles aren't going to want to do like it just feels like there was never any market for this.
Well, and so here,
it's one of those things that is a solution without a problem. Like the idea behind a lot of these streaming services is that people aren't willing to buy gaming hardware, and the past few years have made it very clear that people are willing to spend money for hardware on games. And I think all of these streaming services, last few months have been wild. Like people aren't opposed to buying the hardware. So they're trying to appeal to a market that doesn't exist. There isn't people that are like, oh, I kind of wish I could play these big AAA games, but I don't want to buy a PlayStation or an Xbox or, you know, get the components I need for my computer. Like there's that no in between market where buying the console is the barrier.
Well, Microsoft's got it smart with like xCloud because they've treated it as like a complimentary service, just like they do with everything. It's like you could play it on your Xbox and you could play our games on your PC and everything syncs with the cloud and all your progress back and forth. And then they just extend that to xCloud. It's like, or if you don't have access to your Xbox, you don't have access to your computer, you're on vacation, you can just boot up your phone and play Forza on xCloud and everything comes over, and it's bundled in with Game Pass, an existing service. Like that makes sense.
So that and
never makes sense.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to touch on, is that this is something that I said back in late 2019 after Stadia launched, and I know it's something a lot of people said, is that there is nothing Stadia was doing that xCloud wasn't doing better, in my opinion. Like not a single thing. xCloud is such a better deal than Stadia could ever hope to be. And
although this, from what I hear from most people, I don't have hands-on experience with both of them, but like it sounds like Stadia is the best in terms of streaming quality, response time, and all of that between the streaming services. They just they had the technology, but they did not have the library, and they gave up on trying to have a library or business model that made sense.
I suspect so I know that Google is like pivoting their streaming tech to publishers, right? So which opens up the possibility for Stadia to become the streaming tech for other video game companies. I suspect that was the real end goal all along. And I don't think Google actually I don't think Google went into this expecting to become a bona fide competitor to Sony and Microsoft. I don't believe that for a second.
I think they did. They're Google.
I don't. Like,
I mean, we're probably also going to touch on this, but I've been saying from the beginning that Google and Amazon are going to learn that they can't just Google and Amazon their way into the game industry.
Speaking of doing things in the gaming industry,
it's pretty clear that it's not working for either of them so far.
Can we point out the fact that everything Phil Harrison touches turns to dust? and blows
Oh
away
my
on
God.
the wind.
I wish I could be as bad at my job as he is at every single executive position he's had and get to keep the job.
Has he actually had a success? Like what has he actually done? Like I yeah, there have been a few people on Twitter talking about Phil Harrison and how everything he touches just shrivels up and becomes a tumbleweed and blows away into the void. The Thanos of executives, as somebody in chat said. But yeah, no, I can't name a single win that Phil Harrison has had. We've actually got a quote from him here when he says, "We see an important opportunity to work with partners seeking a gaming solution all built on Stadia's advanced technical infrastructure and platform tools. We believe this is the best path to building Stadia into a long-term sustainable business that helps grow the industry." And that right there, like that statement kind of solidifies for me that the real intent behind Stadia was to become the primary the primary means of streaming tech for developers and other video game based companies like that. I think the past year was more or less like Jeff said, Stadia never really left beta, and I think the beta was for that exact purpose, to lead them to try to get a foothold as streaming tech. I think that's more important to Google. I think it always was more important to Google. I don't think, and for that reason, I don't think Stadia is going away as an entity, as a thing that exists. I do wonder what that subscription service is going to look like in 6 months. Because if they are going to be because I mean, look, it's not very popular. It didn't take off as a platform. It didn't. And I know friends. So I know friends, I won't name them, but like who work at 2K, and they would look at the stats of their games being played on Stadia, and they were like, if we got lucky, it was in the triple digits. If we got lucky. Like,
wow.
like there was nobody playing on Stadia. And if their plan to become the primary streaming tech for multiple developers pans out, like there's like it could, what is the point of maintaining that streaming service if it's costing you more money to maintain it than you're pulling in from it? Provided their intent for the platform pans out the way they hope it does, I really wonder what that subscription service looks like 6 months from now. Why keep it around? If you're just going to lose money on it, and you're making money hand over fist from this other avenue, why would you keep it around? I think there's going to be a lot of pissed off gamers in about 6 months who bought into Stadia. And
I mean, John,
what?
John, a lot of pissed off gamers is a pretty pretty safe bet.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a daily thing. But I don't know. Do you guys get what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know. I'm not good at executive think for like the long term stuff with this sort of thing. So.
Mhm.
So there was another. I'm quoting from the article that Kotaku wrote about this just the other day, and the article also says some of the stuff we've already said, but I want to drive it home. Without offering an all-you-can-play service nor offering killer exclusive games, Stadia struggled to get its footing. Meanwhile, Microsoft ramped up its xCloud gaming service as a part of its Game Pass Ultimate Bundle, and Stadia became less and less alluring to the kind of hardcore gamer who can build buzz for a new gaming service. Google seemingly built for the future with the creation of first-party studios and a leadership team consisting of accomplished studio heads and creative directors. But these efforts weren't enough to stave off the fate that many people feared when hearing about this Google initiative, that it would lose support from within before it got ample time to realize its potential. And with that, you have to wonder what Jade Raymond is thinking right now. Like, can Jade Raymond please finish can somebody give her the chance to finish a game? Jeff, I think you mentioned it in chat earlier. Her and Amy Hennig have had such a bad string of luck in this industry for it feels like God, how many years now?
I mean, at
Like-
least 5,
It's-
7.
It's been nearly 10 years since either of them have shipped.
That's really sad because they're both incredibly talented. And I was, like, we all saw the writing on the wall for Stadia when this thing launched, but I was really hoping that Jade Raymond could get a game out the door or find some success with this, because she deserves it. She's extremely talented, and you have to wonder, at this point, like, are you demoralized enough to where you just leave the industry and move on and do something else where I don't know, like, me personally,
I don't know. I think just from what I know, especially about in LA right now, there's a lot of first party studios that are competing for talent, and I think Jade Raymond might get a really good offer.
I
But
hope so.
Who knows? I don't want to speculate on individual people's career paths.
So
But
we actually do have a statement.
I am hopeful for the.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Jade.
The people that got let go from Google.
I didn't mean to. Sorry, Justin. You were cutting out for me. I thought you were done. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, sorry.
No. It's not your fault. But there was a quote from within Stadia's first party operations that said Google was a terrible place to make games. Imagine Amazon but under resourced. Like, that's fucking rough. And there's actually a statement from Jade Raymond that I wasn't aware of. She made a statement to Kotaku about her departure, and she said, "I am proud of the team we built at Stadia Games and Entertainment and the groundbreaking work on exclusive games for the platform. It was a difficult decision to take on a new opportunity, and I will be forever grateful to this team for everything we learned and achieved together." That's a nice sentiment. I hope her and everybody who was affected by what happened with Stadia this week finds gainful employment very swiftly. It's a rough situation all around. It makes me even more cynical about Google, to be perfectly honest with you. I honestly, like, we've got a Google, like, we have Google Home here, and I honestly at this point am waiting for the day they stop supporting it, because it just seems to be what they do. Does anybody else have anything they want to mention in regards to Stadia before we move on to another topic? Anybody?
Mm-mm.
Justin, what are you pointing at?
I'm trying to get Zeke to look at the camera.
Oh, okay. I thought you were pointing at me. Like, what did I do, dude? Why are you?
No.
Why are you mad?
I'm trying to get the kitty to make a guess.
Oh, okay.
Don't
Well,
worry about it.
just plop him in front of the camera. Plop in front of.
Ugh,
Oh,
he'll run away.
he just whipped you in the face with his tail.
Yeah. No, that's how I spend a lot of my time here.
Do you want me to lay out the next topic?
Yeah,
Don? I got
please.
some notes
Yeah,
here that
Jeff,
I took
please, go ahead.
earlier. Yeah. Just you guys mentioned it, like, these companies try to Google their way into games, and it just doesn't work that way. And we had another story. This article was from Bloomberg, I think last week, about Amazon and basically just the struggles they've had breaking into the gaming industry. And I mean, there's not anything like super surprising in here. It was just interesting to kind of get kind of a renewed peek behind the scenes. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
So there was one quote that I can't get out of my mind after I read it because I did a double take. And like, we've heard a lot of stories behind the scenes about like toxic work environments and stuff from various developers. And the one thing that like everything else that was in that Amazon article was exactly what I expected. But several women that worked there had said it was the most sexist work environment that they had ever been in. And considering some of the stories about the game industry that we've heard,
That's rough.
like,
Yeah.
that's one of the most terrifying statements I've ever heard. Like, I'm not even surprised that it's, tech bro kind of atmosphere at Amazon, because Amazon, like, but the fact that it's apparently that level of bad compared to like some of the stories that we've heard from other studios is just wild to me.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the I mean, there was a lot of like disturbing things in that article, and that was one of them. So I mean, the gist of it was basically just kind of talking about the I guess that basically that Amazon doesn't understand games, which again, like Justin said, none of this should really be surprising. the head of Amazon Game Studios is Mike Frazzini, and he started in the book section of Amazon. These are just kind of you guys should all read the article. It's a pretty good write up, but so he got promoted to start the game studio 8 years ago, and they released like Crucible, and I think one other, and then just canceled a bunch of other games.
And they unreleased both of the games that
They
they
did.
released, by
They
the
did.
way.
Yeah.
back into beta. It's basically just like a bullet point list of just failures. So some of that stuff they would tell staff that every game they released had to be $1 billion franchise. Instead of using industry standard development tools, they insisted that they build their own proprietary stuff. They hired like a bunch of huge talent, Kim Swift, who designed Portal, Clint Hawking from Far Cry 2, and they formed 2 game studios in California. They got one of the guys behind Madden, which is Richard Hillman, and John Smedley, who was big with online game. I think he was with Sony for a while. And out of all that talent, only Smedley's left there, and I don't even know what he's working on. And then it calls out the bro culture, super sexist, super toxic. And it said the big focus of the article is that they have someone running the studio who doesn't understand games. And one kind of good example of that is they said Frazzini struggled to differentiate between conceptual footage, like pre-rendered like footage and CG movies, and actual live gameplay. Like he actually didn't understand the difference between like seeing a cutscene and seeing gameplay, because he just doesn't understand the technology. And like and then the last kind of piece is just talking about like one of their most promising games still coming is New World, which is like a colonial murder simulator.
Oh God, I remember that. Holy shit!
And they had to they didn't believe like all the complaints that people like within the studio were bringing up until they actually brought in some outside people that were just like, no, this is real bad.
Why did they essentially unrelease Crucible? Like, I know they did. Was it because it was bad?
Nobody
was it because
played
nobody
it and
played
it was
it?
bad.
Like
both.
It
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't ready to be released. It wasn't good enough, and nobody was playing it.
So, like, I remember back in the day when you had, the big 3 were Sony, Nintendo, and Sega. Right, like those were the big 3 competitors, and muscling your way into the industry is tough. It is extremely difficult. What's interesting is that Sony and Microsoft were 2 companies that their sole focus was not video games. It was never video games. In fact, Sony still to this day makes more money on insurance than they do from PlayStation. Same thing with Microsoft. Xbox is far away from their anywhere near their top grossing product. And then you have companies like Nintendo who are solely dedicated to video games. Sony and Microsoft are 2 examples of big multinational corporations that actually made it work, that actually were able to get in there, and they both did it with dedicated hardware. Atari tried it with the Lynx,
and it also took them a long time.
It did.
It
did.
It wasn't just an overnight thing.
Right.
They both had to invest for a long time in order to get it. I mean, look at Microsoft and their first party efforts. It wasn't until their recent real buying spree that they even had a lot of studios that were ready to make these huge games. And some of Sony's studios literally took decades before they started making these huge hits that they've made the past few years. It takes a long time and a lot of chances and a lot of failures that Google and Amazon are not willing to do.
Somebody, I had this conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago, and they used a really smart analogy that I will repeat here. I was struck by how similar it was. They compared Sony and Microsoft to the MCU, and they compared companies like Google and Amazon to the DC universe. And they said the reason I say that is because Sony and Microsoft took their time. They developed, they didn't jump into this, full force. They didn't jump in with both feet cannonball into the water right out the gate. They took time to build up libraries. They took time to build up deals. They developed their it took them years to develop those consoles. And then you've got and now they're reaping the successes. You know, like basically present day Sony and Microsoft are essentially, you know, the Avengers movie. And then you've got Google and Amazon who rushed out of the gate like DC. You know, they reached much farther than they were able to, or tried to stretch themselves too thin, and now they're paying the price for it. And I thought that was a pretty interesting analogy to use. Jeff, I saw your hand was up.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I was gonna mention a very similar thing, but from a very different perspective.
Please.
And it's what I was thinking is that because you guys mentioned Justin mentioned Xbox and all their game studios and stuff, and yeah, like most of them haven't even released a game yet, and some of those new studios are going to release a failure before they release a big success. But one of the best things Xbox has done recently is they put Phil Spencer in charge of their game studios, and that's where I love your comparison, because I was thinking that same thing. I think about all the times with movies, Marvel's done well because Kevin Feige, he understands comics, but he also understands movies, and he is able to take the best of both of them and marry them in a way that makes sense and that people want to enjoy.
Yep.
And Phil is very similar in that he gets the business side of things. He's a very smart businessman. He knows what's going to work and what isn't, but he also understands games. He understands what makes a good game and what people really want to play. And that's where these other companies are missing the mark. Is like Amazon, they put Mike Frazzini in, who's from books, and I'm not even sure if he knows anything about books. Like, he does not know video games, and you cannot expect, you can put all the talent in the world, but if the person at the top making the decisions doesn't understand what you're doing, how can you expect to have any kind of success?
Yep. What?
Right?
Exactly.
So they need to put, what they really needed to do is make Jade Raymond in charge of Amazon Game Studios, rather than, just kind of putting her underneath someone else who's calling the shots. So that's, to me, is the big difference there. But yeah, no,
she was in charge at Stadia.
No, it was Jade Raymond, but I mean, there were
oh yeah,
other,
sorry. Yeah.
But there were other factors. Like I clearly get the sense that Google did not give Jade the means or the
absolutely not.
Like, because again, I don't think the intent was ever to make this a viable contender for Sony or Microsoft.
Phil doesn't make, if I think Phil gets credit for some things that weren't really his decision, and like it's unrealistic to think he makes every single call in regards to Xbox, but it's clear that he does have a lot of sway and people respect him and listen to him. And I'm not convinced that Jade got that at Google.
Well, no, she didn't.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
Well, and Jeff makes a great point about having people in charge of your, like, whatever division it is. You need people who are passionate about it. You need people who understand it. You need people who are emotionally invested in it. And I think a great example of that, Jeff, is look at who was in charge of Xbox Xbox gaming before Phil Spencer. It was Don Mattrick. And, Don Mattrick.
And Phil Harrison was there, too.
Yeah, Phil Harrison was there
before, too.
And Don Mattrick, I will never forget when they were talking about backwards compatibility and not leaving the Xbox 360 behind and connectivity. And he said, well, if you want, what do you say? We have a console for you. If you want, it's the Xbox 360. And then he started talking about nuclear subs and about how, if you're on a nuclear sub, maybe, like, it's not going to matter if you're online because you're on a nuclear sub. And I'm paraphrasing, but the Xbox gaming division almost collapsed under the weight of Don Mattrick. And then he went off to ZeniMax and almost bankrupted that company, and then just fucking rode off.
Which then got bought by Microsoft.
Yeah. Like it's like, this is why you need people, and look at Phil Harrison and Stadia now. Like you need people in charge of these things who are actually invested in. Somebody in chat mentioned Reggie. Reggie grew up playing games. He was a Nintendo guy before he was the executive, before he was in charge of Nintendo of America. And he knew how to market it. Like, he knew how to sell it. Like Reggie was hilarious. He knew what he was doing, and he had personality. He had character, just like Phil Spencer does. Just like Shuhei Yoshida did. I think Sony kind of moving Shuhei Yoshida to the side is a huge mistake. But you need and who what's his name now that replaced him?
Jim Ryan.
Jim Ryan, that's right. Jim Ryan. We got to think about the kids. Nobody wants to play these older games.
But also, the PlayStation guys have always been people that have been with PlayStation since the beginning. Jim Ryan has been there and in charge of PlayStation Europe for a really, really long time.
But I don't believe he plays games at all.
That are unfamiliar.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, I don't believe for a minute that Jim Ryan actually sits down and plays any games. I don't believe that for 1 second. Dude looks like he irons his underwear. Like, I can't stand the guy personally. but I mean,
Listen, it's nice and warm.
He does.
It's nice and warm when you iron it.
He does. I mean, I remember he was the guy, wasn't he, who he said we're not going to have crossplay between consoles because we have to think about the children.
Yeah,
and their safety.
Jim is one of those like old style execs that's like always trash what your competition's doing until you do it yourself.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He's a lot of bullshit, but like he at least knows PlayStation and has been around it for a long time.
But I mean, he just doesn't have an appreciation for it, and it's summed up in the statement: nobody wants to play these older games. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Nostalgia is real, and people will pay good money for that.
Yeah, like I mean, do you look at the demand for older games, right? Like, and that's a mindset among executives that I don't understand. Period. Is that people don't want to play older games? Look at the way people mod Game Boys. People.
John, I swear to God, if you burst off into a Final Fantasy VI,
I'm not. I'm restraining myself. I'm not going to do it.
All right.
John, I'm with you on your people do care about older games crusade. I am not convinced that any significant portion of the population cares about modding GBAs. That is a very, very
no. I'm just you would be surprised. Okay, don't look. Look. I just modded my own GBA for myself the first time. Did it by myself for the first time. Don't knock modded GBAs, man. There's a market for that.
No, they're cool.
It's a viable market.
I don't think they're that popular.
I'm gonna say something that's a little spicy. I think
spice it.
John's age gap, they're the ones that mod video games. Like, have you noticed that? Like, it's always the older ones that are like, I've taken this and I've modded.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. My age gap, the older ones?
Yeah.
The what? Oh. Okay. All right. First of all, listen. Okay. All right. First of all, here's the thing. Okay. Here's the thing. All right. I'm not that fucking old for one. Okay. 40 is not that fucking old.
No, it's not. But
two, I don't even know what you mean about an age gap, because we have friends on Twitter who are in their 20s and 30s who love to mod Game Boys. Okay. Yes, they do. Look at Nick. Nick loves his modded Game Boys. Donnie loves his modded consoles. Like, this isn't an old, it's not like a modded, like, these new video games are a young man's game. Like that's not true.
Okay, so what you're saying is older people don't have a reason to mod more than younger people?
No, not at all. It's not an age thing. I showed my kid.
It's nothing to do with wanting to recapture that youth.
No, I don't. Hey, I don't need to recapture my youth. I'm not some invalid in a home on a cane, like talking about, back in my days.
Not at all what I was implying.
I would walk 15 miles through the snow to GameStop to pick up a new Game Boy game. Like that. I mean, come on. Age gap.
So something that I was talking about with other people earlier that's kind of building on this.
No, I want to focus on this, Justin. No. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this.
Okay, never mind. I'm going to go back to just laughing at everybody then. I don't have a stake in this. I'm just going to laugh
Brittany,
at you guys.
Don't put your head in your hands. You did this. You did this.
And I am sorry. I apologize to everybody watching and listening in the future.
You did this.
Look what Jeff put in chat. He said playing GBA games is like my dad watching reruns of MASH. What the fuck, Jeff? What is that shit?
Hey, I mean, I'm sure MASH was a good show, but only an old person is gonna go back and watch reruns.
Jesus Christ. You know what? I forget it. We're moving on. You know what?
Thank
What's
you.
next? What's next? What's next? I love you all. What's next?
I think last thing we were gonna talk about. They finally showed us some of that Mass Effect remaster,
MASH.
Yeah.
Legendary Edition. So I don't know. I thought we'd drop some takes on.
Can
we're
I
excited for that, what we think of
can
it.
I be the first person to drop a take on that?
Yes, please.
The legendary cache. Chef's kiss. Beautiful. Perfect. Put it in my cart, go to buy it. Realize it doesn't have the fucking game. So I'm paying $150 for a helmet and some posters?
It's pulling a It's
that-
pulling a
Yeah.
battlefield.
Okay.
It's pulling a battlefield.
I'm gonna come right out and I won't defend the price, but I love. Is this the collector's edition?
Yeah.
I love
Mhm.
collector's editions that don't come with the game
What?
because no, hear me
Like-
out. Because you have the freedom to buy the collector's edition and then buy the physical game or buy the digital game. If the collector's edition doesn't ship in time, you can still preload the digital game and play it the night it's out.
No. Here's my big complaint with that, which is shady. They give you a steelbook case and they show it on the promotion, but you don't get a fucking game with it? Like
It's
That's
it's
a-
also
what's
so
with
that
the
you can
case?
Yeah.
it's also so that like it can be platform agnostic. Like it's so they don't have to be like, okay, this is a PC version, this is a PlayStation version, this is an
mean-
Xbox version.
It sucks.
It can just
Ah.
it's I have very mixed feelings on it.
How can
I
you
get
have
it
mixed
though.
feelings about a collector's edition of a game that doesn't include a game?
So like
I will say they are probably not being as upfront about it as they should, that it doesn't come with the game. Like that should
Oh, yeah.
be in
What
size
I think
48 font.
What I think they should do is you get to choose what platform you get a digital code.
that's
for
what
when you
I was
buy
going to
it.
suggest something similar. Battlefield did the same thing. I think it was Battlefield 1 did the same thing where they shipped the special
Several
edition.
games have done it.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty common lately.
And it sucks.
So
I
is
like it in concept, but I'm not going to die on this hill for EA. I have no doubt it's a cash grab.
I do get where Jeff is coming from, but I will also say that like Brittany, this thing is like $150, right?
I was literally about to drop the cash, and then I saw it didn't come with the game, and I was like, "What?
So right, so
what am I paying for?"
so it's
A helmet?
$150, and then you have to go and spend an additional $70 or $60 on the game itself.
Mhm.
Whereas like I got Resident Evil 2 special edition with the statue and all that stuff in the game, and it was like $120. And the statue is great quality. I didn't have to go out and I get where Jeff is coming from, but every time this happens, it feels like a shady way to fleece more money out of gamers.
That's my biggest complaint is it's shady. Like they show you a copy of the steelbook, like they're like, "Oh, come grab this." And then it wasn't until people posted on Twitter. Like thank God it took me a little bit to catch up on news because I was at work and to see everything because I literally had it in my cart, was getting ready to put the payment information in, and then somebody was like, "Oh, it doesn't come with the game." And I was like, "That's not true. Like it has a steelbook. Like it's gonna come with the game." And then nope, it does not come with the game.
So-
and
Brittany, let me ask you this. Do you think that it would be better if, and we'll just use, Mass Effect as an example, do you feel it would be better if they did not include a steelbook, didn't call it like a special edition of the game, and just sold the helmet and shit as like, hey, here's some cool Mass Effect shit. Here's some cool Mass Effect swag if you want it.
so it depends. Like what is the point? And this is what I don't understand. Like, okay, you're gonna make an exclusive item that you can only get at launch, right? Like an exclusive statue, helmet. Resident Evil 6, they had Leon's jacket. Like, all of these things are exclusive to a launch, but it's to a launch of a game that you're not including. Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, what is the point? At that point, just say it, like, here, we're promote it on your store as like items to buy, not like buy it. Like when you just advertise it as like a launch, like it's releasing here, pre-order it here. Like that sounds shady to me. Like just say like, and we've got additional items that you can buy. Like when you call something a legendary edition of a game, you expect to have the game. If you want to just say here is some shit you can buy, that's different. It just makes me mad that this was like a big launch. They had a trailer and they were like, pre-order the game now, and it takes you to this page that you can't even actually pre-order the game. It's stupid to me. It's just a cash grab.
I'll kick it off to Jeff or Justin after this, but I will say this: the wording, like legendary edition, like edition implies that this is an actual edition of the game itself. Like the game is present. You know, like if you're. And I think that's my biggest problem with it is the wording. Like, you know, I don't know what the ad looks like. I don't know how small the text that says, you know, game not included is, but people overlook this shit. I mean, they just do. And when you're labeling something as a legendary, like, for example, if I did not know that the game did not come in the steel case, if you tell me
it's actually not called the Legendary Collection, it's called the Legendary Cache.
But okay, so but legendary is tied to, like, usually there's a legendary edition.
Yeah, no, I know, but they did actually name it something a little bit different than like an edition.
I mean, that's so, but in that case, like, I mean, you know, for all the shit we give Gearbox, they sold like a legendary loot case for Borderlands 2 and 3, and it still had the game in there. Like, I mean, it came with the game. So this to me does come off as pretty disingenuous. Jeff or Justin, go ahead.
So I'm going to talk about the actual games.
I don't have anything to add on that.
I don't have anything else to really say about that.
That you guys said. It's definitely misleading. I don't have a problem with these kind of bundles on principle that don't come with the game, but the price of them and the naming convention they use for them is definitely up for debate. It should be, you know, the price should reflect the fact it doesn't come with the game, and it should be very clear that it's like basically shit you can buy or accessories pack, and not an actual version of the game.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know, Justin. What did you think of the trailer, man?
I'm really excited. I'm so excited. I deeply love these games. They're some of my favorite games of all time. And I think the remaster job they've done looks phenomenal. I think they've done a really good job updating the visuals and everything.
It sounds not like coming out on next gen, huh? It's like old gen PS4.
So it sounds like it's gonna be like, so some games are kind of enhanced, but not like a native version. So like with like God of War this week and like Days Gone and stuff, and like Ghost of Tsushima, those have modes that work on PS5. It's aware that it's running on a PS5, but they are not native PS5 games. They're still running in the backwards compatibility mode, and it kind of sounds like it's going to be that.
They put out a really weird press release about it.
It's a weird statement. I also think that statement might have just been, we'll do it if we have time, but we don't know if we'll have time kind of thing. But I mean, it's a 4K 60 completely remastered version of all three Mass Effect games. And it sounds like they're doing, you know, some nice changes to the gameplay of the first Mass Effect, which needs it. But I am so excited to go back and play these games again. And have them all in one package and like be able to easily carry stuff between them, easily play them on a modern platform. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this. And it was super awesome seeing so many people that feel the same way. I want to know how many people I know are going to be doing like, oh, I'm going to be streaming the Mass Effect trilogy playthrough. Like, I feel like almost everybody I know that does any kind of streaming is going to doing that once this hits.
It's going to be a hot commodity.
Like, this almost feels like a relaunch of the series, in a way. And I'm so excited to get my hands on this.
It's a good game to stream because if you have a big audience, you can have your audience make the choices for you. So
and also another thing that is exciting is that people have been asking for a lot of remasters out of EA for a while.
Yeah.
And EA's been like the one major publisher that's really dragged their heels on it. They really have avoided doing remasters too often, and they've done a couple like very bare bones ones, but it's not been like the major games people have requested, and they haven't done a lot of work on them. And I think this will also be like, hey, EA, especially stuff from the PS3 360 era. EA released a lot of amazing games during that generation, and I would easily pay money for a remaster or re-release of. And I hope this kind of shows EA like, hey, some of your old IPs are worth re-releasing and revisiting, instead of they've been kind of in a weird funk the past few years. And I'd like to see them realize kind of the value that some of these games have.
That's what I was going to bring up, and I want to kick this question over to Britt or Jeff. It's not like people haven't been begging for Mass Effect remasters for years, right? And that has to be probably the most requested remastered franchise that I have seen. And there are other franchises like Knights of the Old Republic that people have been begging for. Like Justin said, they have got a catalog of franchises that people would pay good money for in droves to play on current gen systems. My question is, Dead Space is another one. I'm fucking begging for a Dead Space remaster.
I never actually played Dead Space.
Oh, Britt, you're missing
good.
out.
You'd like it.
Yeah, you're missing out. Dead Space is top tier horror, especially when you're talking about Dead Space 2 is one of the best horror games I've ever played. My question is, why is it taking so long just to get Mass Effect? I mean, forget the rest of their other numerous popular franchises for a minute. Why has it taken them so long to get something as universally desired as Mass Effect out when they know there's money to be made on it? Why? I can't figure that out.
I mean, it's like the easy answer is just that it takes effort and time, and someone has to make the ports. And I guess they've been so laser focused on their bigger franchises like FIFA and Battlefield and stuff like that it probably just wasn't a priority. I'm sure it's been on their backlog for a long time.
Got to focus on Anthem, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to weigh in on the game a little bit. I don't.
Please.
I feel like I'm always like the cynical person, but I have two thoughts on the remaster. Like, it is fantastic that people can play these games again on modern hardware. They look at least as good as they did. Like, nothing can take away from how special those games were. So I think it's great that they're going to be available again, that they're being released, but at the same time, they are a remaster. So I feel like it's valid to kind of pull up the microscope a little bit. And, the bar is very high for remasters these days. We've had some really good remasters, and I'll be honest, I need to see more. Like, I wasn't that impressed from the trailer. Granted, I played these games on PC, but they basically look very, very similar. Obviously, one looks a little bit different, but a lot of the difference that I could see, the textures are maybe a little bit sharper, but a lot of it is artistic, and I think that's going to actually be very controversial. The Halo remasters, Halo 1 and 2 Anniversary, were very controversial because they changed a lot of the color tone, and a lot of things that were very dark and gritty were kind of brighter and yellower and stuff like that. And I don't know, just a couple of the smallest bits we saw, like Mass Effect 1, it really does change the atmosphere and the mood of certain areas. Like, they're a little bit more yellow, they got more lens flare and stuff like that. So it's a technical upgrade for sure. I would not be surprised if you're going to see some very split opinions on whether it's an improvement or not.
Brittany, go ahead. You look like you wanted to say something.
I was just gonna say, I think for some reason these big companies also have a hard time keeping codes and data of old game, because isn't there a part of a DLC of Mass Effect 2 that's not going to be included?
That's Mass Effect 1. It's Pinnacle Station.
Okay. Yeah.
Which, thankfully, it's Pinnacle Station, because Pinnacle Station sucks. But yeah, they're actually not able to include it because they lost the source code for it.
Yeah, so yeah,
yeah,
and
why
I think they probably put it on the back burner for some time. It's this is
we dodged,
we still got to.
We dodged a bullet with which one it ended up being. If there was any that had to get cut, it was Pinnacle Station. So I'm glad it was that one and not some of the really not the Shadow Broker DLC from Mass Effect 2 or something.
I was
so good.
I was going to mention
and-
that.
And the multiplayer isn't included, but which is a bummer.
Sorry,
The
John, I'm
multiplayer
just
for
going to
free,
add
'cause
one
that
more
was
No,
thing.
very
please,
fun.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and the other thing is, it's not like a PS3 remaster, like where you just port it, like where you port it to PS3 and Xbox 360. Like they gotta fucking port this game to PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and then also make sure it works backwards compatible on PS5, on Xbox Series X, on Xbox, So there's that aspect of it too. It's probably a lot of just. I'm sure it wouldn't be surprised if the game was like done a year ago and they've just spent a long ass time like testing the shit out of it, make sure it works on 10 different platforms.
And also,
yeah.
they don't want to get this wrong. Like, I think if you're the ones that are remastering the Mass Effect trilogy, you straight up don't want to screw up.
Yeah, look
Right.
at the launch of Mass Effect 3. Yikes.
Well, and like
And
I
Andromeda.
I was gonna say that when I watched the trailer for the remastered trilogy, my first thought was, did they bring J.J. Abrams in to consult on this? Because holy shit, these lens flares, like that's
Mass Effect always had those lens
but I mean they
flares.
were really really
think
exaggerated here. Like
It did have lots, but like every single before and after comparison I saw so far is just adding more lens flare.
It's Mass Effect, a J.J. Abrams production. Not that there's anything wrong with lens flares. I'm just like, wow.
It works for Mass Effect. I dig it.
It does, yeah, absolutely. It vibes with that aesthetic. And Sam said something in chat that is accurate. BioWare kind of can't afford to screw up right now. They just can't.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Andromeda. Like, they can't fuck up on another Mass Effect series, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yep. And
I personally enjoyed Andromeda. I thought it was not as bad as people
It's
made it out.
fine.
It's fine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
honestly,
but fine doesn't cut it for that series.
Right.
What's interesting about Andromeda is that I never played it, but I know people who did, and when they finished it, they would look at me and say, "That was cool. I would have rather just played the original trilogy." And that's when I really started thinking, like, yeah, why haven't we seen the original trilogy remastered yet? I mean, I'm glad that's being corrected now, but it really took a long time to kick this out of the door. And there's one console that is notably excluded, and that is the Switch.
Here we go.
I do think I'm not gonna play the remaster period. But I do think it'll probably hit the Switch one day.
I mean, Mass Effect 3 released on the Wii U, so
Did it really?
Yeah.
No
So
shit. I had
Yeah,
no
there's
idea.
a Wii U version of Mass Effect 3.
Why?
So I mean,
I know we all forgot about the Wii U, but yes, there was a Mass Effect on it.
Why?
yeah, like so I don't think it's gonna be 4K 60, but I do think if they really cared, I have to imagine the games, they look fundamentally the same as the originals. I have to think they could actually get it on Switch if they.
I mean, I'm
wanted
sure it could run on Switch, and the way that
Yeah,
software is
I
selling on
imagine it
Switch
would
right
just-
now.
It probably would just need extra work for that
Yeah.
version, and they want to make sure that the other versions, where it's going to do really, really well, are up to snuff before they do a Switch version. I think it'll probably eventually come to Switch.
It
But,
probably will, but honestly, Justin, like the more I think about it, like the crowd that is going to buy Mass Effect remastered, if they own a PS5 and an Xbox and a Switch, or any combination of those with a Switch, I mean, honestly, they're not going to buy it on Switch. They're going to buy it on PS5 or Xbox.
See, the story I got.
I
from
mean,
last
I would
year
buy
is
it
different,
on
Is that
console
everyone's gonna
and
buy
Switch.
everything on Switch because they
Yeah.
want to play Mass Effect on the toilet? Like everything sells like crazy on Switch. I don't know. It's
For the most part, it does. But I mean, look, I mean, how
Wanna
did I
poop
mean?
and romance Liara.
But I mean, how did Doom sell on the Switch? I mean, like I mean, it sold fine.
It's like a bit of a different market, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of third party. I don't know. How did Witcher do on Switch? That might be a good comparison.
I mean, The
also-
Witcher
really
actually
well.
sold pretty well on Switch.
really well.
Like
big RPG. Like to me, that's a pretty good comparison. I think the market for that is the same.
well, and I don't think that Mass Effect would have to make the kind of visual sacrifices that Witcher 3 had to make to cram itself onto the Switch. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like, I don't expect it to come out anytime. If it does hit the Switch, I don't expect it to come out anytime soon.
I got a question.
Okay.
What is gonna age the worst in this series, and why is it Miranda?
Oof. I was gonna say
Miranda wasn't
I don't know, I
well
think-
when the game launched. Like,
I think it's Edie.
Oh,
More so than
yeah.
Miranda.
Oh, God, Edie.
Forgot.
yeah, gotta have
I
that sexy
forgot.
robot.
Oh my god.
I actually,
God.
so I'm going to confess something here. I never finished Mass Effect 3, and part of the reason was I was so taken aback at Edie as a sexy robot that I was like, this is kind of taking me out of it. Like,
What, you didn't
why?
like the robot with a camel toe, John?
Yeah, why did you didn't have to go there.
Have you seen that design?
Yes, Justin, I
I-
played the game. I've seen the design.
I played this entire game and I forgot about this character. I'm looking at it now and fucking yikes.
Yeah, people had their problems with the game's endings. I had my problems with I was like, so y'all just gonna ignore this, huh? Like, and didn't Joker actually end up like sleeping with Edie? Like isn't that a thing that happened to the game? Like, him and Edie hooked up.
Him and Edie
Yeah.
were like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they were
if,
like an actual
physically,
couple.
But they were a couple, and then they were a couple before she became like into a body.
I don't remember that, but that's cool.
Blaine in chat just pointed out that Jessica Chobot is in the game as well.
Yeah, she's that journalist,
I forgot about that.
and you can actually romance her too, which is great, I guess. But yeah, I like
Forgot about that. I forgot
yeah,
about that.
yeah, she was in there for some reason. Yeah, like I loved Mass Effect 2. I thought Mass Effect 1 was fine. I did not finish Mass Effect 3. I know how the game ends because I just looked it up on YouTube, but
See, Mass Effect 2 was my least favorite because it's almost like the decisions you make in that game, no matter if your crew dies or not, like, doesn't really impact 3, right? Like, because they don't really make a return. Like, you get additional dialogue with them, but I don't know. I think it's funny that they just introduced this whole brand new team, and then we're like, no, we're gonna go back to the original team.
I will say, I think we can all agree that the Elusive Man is probably one of the most well-written and acted villains in the entire medium.
Until 3, yes.
Yeah, but like that's true. Like, he turned into more of a cardboard cutout of a villain in Mass Effect 3. I agree. But man, like, you could tell that I know the voice actor, and I'm totally blanking on his name because I'm tired and it's getting late. Martin Sheen, Jesus Christ, like, how the fuck do I forget that? You could tell that Martin Sheen had a blast playing the Elusive Man. I read, so he doesn't smoke, the Elusive Man does, and I read that he actually sucked on a pen while he was recording his voice lines to simulate the sound of the Elusive Man smoking a cigarette, which I think is really, really cool. But yeah, like, when does the game release again? When is the trilogy?
Apparently, I couldn't find the release. How did it get delayed? Was there a release date?
It
in the
was
trailer?
March, and then I went to May, didn't it?
Did they say
But
why they
where did
did
the May date come from? I didn't see it in the trailer.
It's the week after Resident Evil Village.
Ooh, that's
Oof.
that's an interesting time. That's an interesting time to launch. Like those.
That's a tall glass of water right there.
Yeah, those are, and I'm talking like, I'm not talking about Resident Evil. I'm talking about Mass Effect. Like, the popularity of Resident Evil is at an all-time high. That's an interesting time to drop a remaster. Like, I don't care if it's Mass Effect.
Mass Effect is gonna do just.
I mean, I'm
just
sure.
fine.
I'm sure it'll do fine, but
it's gonna. No, that collection's gonna sell stupid.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. It's just an interesting choice. I mean, I'm gonna go for Resident Evil, but I'm not a huge Mass Effect fan. So, and like, I do want to play Mass Effect 2 again, but I'm not willing to pay for the whole trilogy in order to just play, because I know I won't replay 1 or 3. So, but yeah. I mean, I'm happy that everybody's excited. I'm glad everybody is getting a remaster of a trilogy that they've been asking for years and years and years. Let's just hope we see more, like Justin said, let's hope we see more great EA franchises brought back in remaster form, whether it's, you know, Knights of the Old Republic or Dead Space, or I mean, shit, Justin, what else is there, man? Like, I mean, I know there's more.
Dragon Age.
Dragon Age, like
a Dragon Age collection would be so good.
Yeah, that would sell
Need
quite
for
a bit.
Speed Underground.
Need for Speed. Yes,
yeah,
I
that's
love Need
another
for
one.
Speed.
Battlefield Bad Company.
Yeah,
And
They
Bad Company
they were working
God,
on a remaster, weren't they? And they canned it.
I would love a remaster of Bad Company. That game was fucking great. First person shooter, for like war games usually aren't my thing, but Battlefield Bad Company, I love the humor in that game. Army of Two was another one I saw in chat.
Wow.
I mean,
Kane and Lynch.
Kane and Lynch. No, I think we're good on Kane and Lynch. I think I never played that. I only heard the stories. But was The Darkness wasn't an EA game, was it?
I don't know.
Was The Darkness EA?
Know.
That's another one I'm surprised.
All I know is that I'm gonna play Mass Effect and I'm gonna enjoy it, but I'm gonna fucking hate watching all the females and their curves and just be over sexualized. Like, I'm gonna enjoy it, but I'm also gonna be like, God fucking damn it.
I think one of the most cowardly things I saw last gen, Britt, was like when they finally revealed Tali's face. It was just like I was expecting like this exotic looking alien, right? Like she's an Shakorian, right? And they just took a stock photo of a model from the internet and like tinted it pinkish purple and slapped it in a picture frame on the fucking. Yeah. Do you remember that? And people went to the internet and found that picture, and they were like, "Okay, so you took a Shutterstock photo of some model and just stuck her in a picture frame next to Shepard's bed. Like, come on, guys. Like, I mean, what are you doing?" Anyway, I think so. We've actually gone a little bit over our time here. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to bring up before we start wrapping up here?
Video games are good.
They're fine.
Video games are good. You guys are wonderful. Our community is wonderful.
Our community is fucking great.
I would love to have a show just talking about how great the community is.
Maybe we should do that next week.
We should have a community appreciation day.
You know what? We should do that next week for next week's episode. Let's do a community appreciation episode. That's long overdue.
We should hash out the details offline.
We
should plan this more in advance instead of it just being.
No, next week we're doing. No, I'm just kidding. But that is something
we'll do it eventually. We'll make an announcement about it when we're actually doing it and when we can actually plan it instead of just at the end of an episode just be like, hey, let's do this.
That is something that is something that is long overdue though. Is kind of doing an episode talking about our community, because I do believe that we have built one of the best communities in gaming. Like if you look in the Discord, everybody is just so supportive of each other. There's not a single person in the Discord that I think doesn't mesh well. And yeah, like thank you, Rar, for throwing the for throwing the link in chat there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would not have made it through 2020, I don't think, intact without our community, without this podcast, without all of you. And Britt, you were going to say something.
So many people.
Say thank you,
this...
Justin, because Justin was the one that originally posted it before.
I didn't see that. Okay, sorry. Sorry about that.
So many people in this community have helped me out with so many things. The past month for me has been very difficult. And a lot of people in our community have reached out to me or been willing to speak with me about certain things and really helped me through a lot, on top of the core crew of the show who are really, really good friends. So, like, the fact that we have such a kind, caring community that's willing to reach out to each other just means the world to me. And we're really, really proud of the people that assembled in our Discord and we have in our chats and engaging with us, and we're just so happy that you're all here.
I think the biggest thing that I love about our community, and then we can wrap it up after this, is that I can disappear for a certain amount of time and I come back in and people aren't like, where were you? You were gone for so long. It's just like, oh, Brit's here. Hey, like, come join us in this conversation. You know, it's like nobody ever guilts you for leaving. Nobody ever makes you feel bad if like you're just going through some shit and you don't have the energy to like, you know, put into talking to people. So I don't know. I just love and appreciate you guys.
I will say that a lot of content creators, a lot of like if you see like whenever conventions happen again, because they'll start back up at some point. If you see us there walking around, please come up and say hi. You know, some content creators don't do that, but if you see me, I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody else in the podcast, but if you see me walking around, please come up and say hi. I want to meet you. I want to meet you. I want to shake your hand. And thank you personally for all the support you've given us over the past few years. And we're going to keep on going in 2021. We have a lot of good stuff planned. Justin, you and Derek are recording some good content this weekend. You want to mention that real quick?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier.
Oh, you did?
Going to be we're going to be going in depth on 13 Sentinels, and I'm
That's
really
right. Okay.
really excited to talk about that one because both of us really loved that game. Spoiler for how the review is going to go, but there's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack, and I think people should check that game out. So I'm really looking forward to going over that.
And don't forget, episode 1 of Dual Daddies with me and Finn Dual Daddies is now on all major podcast services, and that's something that Finn and I will be recording every Sunday and releasing every Wednesday. And we've got our first guest lined up. It's actually going to be Amanda Farrow. Is going to come on Dual Daddies. It's going to be Dual Daddies and One Mom. And we are going to talk about all that good video game child rearing stuff. Brittany, you should come on Dual Daddies.
I should.
You should absolutely.
I have a child. I am.
You do have a child.
I'm qualified.
Absolutely, you are qualified to be.
Barely, but.
You're qualified to be a dual daddy. You're qualified. Absolutely, come on.
I am daddy. Move over.
Anyway.
The confidence in that statement.
Yeah, that was way too confident. That's all the time we have for tonight. I love my community and my podcast family. I almost don't want to end the podcast, but I do because I've got to go grind. Grind Skywalker scripts in Final Fantasy 14, so I can buy some pants for my character because that's
you go get those pants, John.
That's what I do. That's what we do in MMOs.
That's what we call in normal people as I got to go work so I can afford food. And
we got to go. I got to go grind scripts so I can buy pants with cool cargo pockets and complete my machinist glam. So that's what I'm going to go do. Everybody have a good night. Take care of each other. And remember, kindness indeed costs nothing. We will see you
good night, everyone.
Next week.